Queen Yuna had ruled 17 star systems for 200 years. She commanded the largest fleet in the known galaxy. Billions of beings bowed when they heard her name. She had never known fear, never known weakness, and never known what it felt like to be ordinary, until her ship exploded in the sky of a small blue planet. The royal vessel had been traveling through empty space when the first alarm sounded. Yuna remembered the flash of fire, the screaming of metal, and then the terrible silence of falling. Her escape pod shot away from the burning wreckage and plunged through thick clouds. She hit the ground hard. The pod cracked open like an egg, and she crawled out into wet grass. Her silver skin was covered in cuts. Her violet eyes could barely focus. The ceremonial armor that marked her as queen had been torn away during the crash. She looked like any other Valorian now. Just a tall, pale figure with strange eyes, bleeding in a forest she did not know. Yuna tried to stand. Her legs gave out. She tried again. This time, she managed to take a few steps, before falling against a tree. She had never felt so weak in her entire life. For hours, she walked through the forest. The trees were green and brown, colors she had only seen in old books. Her home world had no forests. It had glass towers and metal streets and air that smelled like machines. This place smelled like rain and earth and something sweet she could not name. Night came. Yuna was shaking from cold and pain. Her thoughts were becoming slow and foggy. She knew she might die here, alone on a planet that had no name, and no one in the galaxy would ever know what happened to their queen. Then she saw the light. A small cabin sat in a clearing ahead. Warm yellow light glowed from its windows. Smoke rose from a chimney. Yuna used her last strength to reach the door and knock. The door opened, and a human male looked out at her. He was average height with messy black hair and tired eyes. He wore simple clothes, soft and worn from use. In his hand, he held a cup of something hot that sent steam into the cold air. He looked at her silver skin. He looked at her violet eyes. He looked at the blood running down her arm. "You look rough," he said. "Come in. I will make you some soup." Yuna blinked. She waited for him to fall to his knees. She waited for the fear, the worship, the trembling respect that every being in the galaxy showed her. Instead, he stepped aside and held the door open. "Well?" he said. "Are you coming in or not?" "You are letting the cold in." Yuna walked inside. The cabin was small but warm. A fire burned in a stone fireplace. Books sat in piles on wooden shelves. A bed with thick blankets stood in one corner. The whole place smelled like wood and cooking food. The human pointed to a chair by the fire. "Sit there. I will get my medical kit." Yuna sat. She was too tired to argue. The human returned with a box of supplies and began cleaning her wounds. His hands were gentle, but not careful in the way servants were careful. He touched her like she was just a person who needed help. Nothing more. "My name is Do-Yoon," he said as he worked. "What is yours?" Yuna hesitated. If she told him her title, everything would change. He would become afraid. He would start bowing and apologizing. She would become the queen again, and this strange, peaceful moment would end. "Yuna," she said. "Just the name. Nothing else." "Yuna," Do-Yoon repeated. "That is a nice name. Where did you come from?" "My ship crashed. I saw the fire in the sky," he said. "Big explosion. You're lucky to be alive." He wrapped a bandage around her arm. His movements were practiced and sure. "You were a healer?" Yuna asked. "I was a medic. In the military. Long time ago." He did not look up from his work. "Now I just live here, fish, read, keep to myself." He finished bandaging her wounds and stood up. "You need rest. The bed is yours tonight. I will sleep by the fire." "I cannot take your bed," Yuna said. You are the one who fell from the sky covered in blood. You get the bed. No arguing. He walked to the cooking area and began preparing soup. Yuna watched him move around the small space with ease. He did not seem curious about her strange appearance. He did not seem impressed or frightened. He simply made soup like this was a normal evening. Yuna had met thousands of beings across the galaxy. Politicians who smiled while planning murder. Generals who trembled at her gaze. Servants who could not meet her eyes. But she had never met anyone like this human who treated her like she was nobody special. It should have felt insulting. Instead, it felt like taking off heavy armor she had worn for centuries. Dayan brought her a bowl of soup. It was simple food, vegetables and broth. Nothing like the royal feasts she was used to. She tasted it and found it was the best thing she had eaten in 100 years. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome." He sat across from her with his own bowl. "So, Yuna, what were you doing flying around in space?" "Traveling." "Where to?" "Nowhere important." He smiled a little. "A mysterious traveler with no destination." "I understand that. Sometimes nowhere is the best place to go." They ate in comfortable silence. The fire crackled. The wind moved through the trees outside. For the first time in 200 years, Queen Yuna of the Valorian Empire felt something she had forgotten was possible. She felt safe. 3 days passed. Then a week. Yuna's wounds healed slowly, but her emergency beacon remained broken. She told Doyan that her people would come eventually, but she did not know when. He shrugged and said she could stay as long as she needed, and so the Queen of 17 star systems began living in a wooden cabin with a human who did not know her name meant anything at all. The first morning, Do-hyun handed her a fishing rod. "What is this?" Yuna asked. "A tool for catching fish." "Have you never seen one?" "We have machines that catch fish." Do-hyun laughed. It was a warm sound, easy and natural. "Machines take all the fun out of it. Come on, I will teach you." They walked to a stream that ran through the forest. The water was clear and cold, moving over smooth stones. Do-hyun showed her how to cast a line, how to wait, how to feel for the pull of a fish. Yuna failed. Again and again, she failed. Her line got tangled in trees. Her hook caught on rocks. One time, she almost fell into the water and had to grab Don's arm to stay upright. He laughed at her. He actually laughed. "You are really bad at this," he said, grinning wide. Yuna stared at him. In her empire, laughing at the queen meant death. Soldiers had been executed for less. But Doyan did not know he was laughing at a queen. He was just laughing at a clumsy woman who could not catch a fish. She found herself smiling, then laughing too. "Fine," she said. "Show me again." He moved behind her and took her hands in his. His fingers were rough from work, warm against her silver skin. He adjusted her grip on the rod and guided her arm through the motion of casting. "Like this," he said softly. "Smooth and gentle. Do not force it." His face was close to hers. She could feel his breath on her cheek. In her world, touching the queen without permission was a crime. Guards would have killed him where he stood. But here, in this forest, by this stream, it was just a man teaching a woman to fish. Yuna cast a line. It flew straight and true, landing in the water with a soft splash. "Good," Do-hyun said. "Now we wait." They sat on the bank together. The sun moved slowly across the sky. Birds sang in the trees. Yuna could not remember the last time she had simply sat and waited for anything. Her life was meetings and decisions and constant movement. Every minute was planned. Every action had purpose. This had no purpose at all. And it was wonderful. "Why do you live here alone?" Yuna asked. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. "I was a soldier once. I led a squad of good people. We were sent on a mission that went wrong. All of them died. I lived. That was not your fault. Maybe not, but I could not stay after that. Too many memories. Too much noise. He looked around at the peaceful forest. I came here to find quiet. To find peace. Yuna understood. She carried burdens too. Centuries of war and politics and hard choices. But she could never run away. She was the queen. The empire needed her. At least, that was what she had always believed. Do you miss it? She asked. Your old life? Sometimes. But I have found something better here. Simple things. Good food. Clean air. Time to think. He looked at her with curious eyes. What about you? You said you manage people. What kind of work was that? Yuna chose her words carefully. I made decisions. Many people depended on me. Every choice I made affected thousands of lives. That sounds exhausting. It is. No wonder you look so tired. Yuna touched her own face. She had not looked in a mirror since the crash. But she knew what Do-yoon meant. The tiredness was in her bones, in her soul. 200 years of ruling had worn her down in ways she never noticed until now. I am tired, she admitted. Very tired. Then rest, Do-yoon said simply. That is what this place is for. Over the following days, Yuna learned to do things she had never done before. She helped Do-yoon in his garden, digging in the dirt with her bare hands. She learned to cook simple meals over the fire. She learned to chop wood, badly at first, then better with practice. Every evening, they sat together and talked. Do-hyun told her stories about Earth, about its history and its people. He spoke of wars and peace, of suffering and hope. He explained ideas that seemed strange to her at first. On Earth, he said one night, we believe that all people are equal. A king is no better than a farmer. We are all the same underneath. That is not how things work in most of the galaxy, Yuna said. Maybe that is why the galaxy has so many wars. She thought about that for a long time, in her empire. There were rulers and subjects. Those who commanded and those who obeyed. The idea that everyone might be equal seemed impossible. And yet, here with Do-yoon, she did not feel like a queen. She felt like a woman. Just a woman learning to fish and garden and live simply. It was the happiest she had been in centuries. One morning, Yuna woke early and found Do-yoon already outside, tending his vegetables. She joined him without speaking, kneeling in the dirt beside him and pulling weeds. He looked at her and smiled. You learn fast. I have a good teacher. They worked together in comfortable silence as the sun rose over the trees, and the most powerful being in the galaxy discovered that she did not want her old life back at all. Yuna had lived for over 200 years. She had made treaties with alien empires. She had commanded fleets in battle. She had survived 17 assassination attempts and executed 3 of her own cousins for treason. But she had never felt what she felt now. Every morning, she looked forward to seeing Do-yoon. Every evening, she did not want their conversations to end. When he left, something warm grew in her chest. When he touched her hand by accident, her heart beat faster. She did not understand it. In her culture, queens did not love. They made political marriages for power. They chose partners based on what benefits they brought. Love was a weakness, something that enemies could use against you. But Do-yoon made her feel strong in ways that power never had. One night, a terrible storm came. Rain pounded against the cabin walls. Wind howled through the trees. Lightning split the sky, and the small light they used went dark. The power is gone, Do-yoon said. He found candles and lit them one by one until the cabin glowed with soft orange light. They sat by the fire, listening to the storm rage outside. Yuna pulled a blanket around her shoulders. The world felt small and safe. Just the two of them in this tiny circle of warmth. "I never asked," Dayan said. "Where exactly do you come from?" "Far away." "Very far. That much I guessed." He smiled a little. "I mean, what was it like?" "Your home?" Yuna thought about how to answer. "Cold. Busy. Everything was glass and metal. There were no trees, no streams, no green things. Just machines and buildings and people always moving, always working. That sounds sad." "I never thought so. It was just how things were." She looked at the fire. "But now, after being here, I think maybe it was sad. I just did not know any different." Dahin poked at the fire with a stick. "I grew up in a big city too. Millions of people, all living on top of each other. I always dreamed of space, of quiet. That is why I became a soldier. I wanted to see what was out there." "Did you find what you were looking for?" "No." His voice was soft. "I found death and pain and loss. But then I came here, and I found something else. Peace. Purpose in small things. Maybe that is what I was really looking for all along." The storm continued outside. Thunder shook the walls. But inside the cabin, everything was calm. "Where I come from," Yuna said slowly, "people exist to serve those above them. There are those who rule and those who obey. That is the natural order. That is how it has always been." "That sounds lonely," Doyin said. "For the rulers, I mean." Yuna stared at him. No one had ever said that before. No one had ever thought about whether she might be lonely. They saw her crown and her power, and assumed she had everything she could want. "It is," she whispered. "It very much is." Dohin reached over and took her hand. His grip was gentle but firm. "Well, you are not alone right now." Something cracked inside Yuna's chest. Not breaking, opening. A door that had been locked for 200 years swung wide, and all the feelings she had buried came flooding out. She did not cry. Queens did not cry. But her eyes grew wet, and her breath caught in her throat. "Thank you," she managed to say. They sat together holding hands while the storm raged and the candles flickered. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. The next morning, the storm was over. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Yuna woke to find Doyen already cooking breakfast. She sat up and watched him move around the small kitchen. He hummed a tune she did not recognize. He looked happy, comfortable, at peace. She wanted this life. She wanted it so badly, it hurt Dot. But then she remembered the truth. She was not a simple traveler. She was the Galactic Queen. Billions of beings waited for her return. The Empire could not function without her. She had duties and responsibilities that went back centuries. After breakfast, she walked alone into the forest. She found her crashed escape pod and dug through the wreckage until she found the emergency beacon. For weeks, she had told Do-yoon it was broken. That was not entirely true. She had the skills to fix it. She had always had the skills. But she had not wanted to fix it. She had not wanted to be found. Yuna held the beacon in her hands. If she repaired it, her fleet would come. She would return to her old life. The throne, the crown, the endless meetings and battles and political games. She would never see this forest again. She would never see Da-hyun again. But if she did not repair it, her empire might fall apart. Civil wars might start. Millions could die because she chose to stay here instead of ruling. Her hands shook. She had faced enemy armies without fear. She had made decisions that destroyed planets. But this choice, this simple choice between duty and happiness, was harder than anything she had ever faced. She started working on the beacon. Her fingers moved automatically, connecting wires and adjusting circuits. Tears ran down her silver cheeks as she worked. When she finished, she did not turn it on. Not yet. She put it in her pocket and walked back to the cabin. Do-hyun looked up when she entered. Everything okay? Yuna forced a smile. Everything is fine. But in her pocket, the beacon waited. And she knew that her time here was running out. The beacon activated on its own. Yuna did not know how or why. Perhaps she had fixed it too well. Perhaps some automatic system triggered it. But 3 days after she put it in her pocket, she woke to a sound that made her blood freeze. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Filling the sky, she ran outside. Do-hyun was already on the porch, staring up at the massive warships blocking out the sun. His fishing rod was still in his hand. His face showed surprise but not fear. "Friends of yours?" he asked calmly. Before Yuna could answer, a smaller ship descended from the fleet. It landed in the clearing, crushing part of the garden. Soldiers poured out, 50 of them, then 100, all wearing the silver armor of the Valorian Imperial Guard. Commander Taiwu led them. He was tall and stern, with cold eyes and a face that never smiled. He had served Yuna for 80 years. He was loyal to death. When he saw her, he dropped to one knee. Every soldier behind him did the same. "Your Majesty," Taiwu said, "we have found you at last." Do-hyun slowly lowered his fishing rod. He looked at Yuna. He looked at the kneeling soldiers. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Majesty?" he said. Taiwu rose, his hand moving to his weapon. "You dare speak in the presence of the Galactic Queen? State your name and species, creature." "His name is Do-hyun," Yuna said quickly. "He is a human, and he saved my life." Taiwu studied Do-hyun with suspicious eyes. "Step away from Her Majesty. Any closer, and you will be destroyed." Do-hyun did not move. He looked at Yuna with those calm, tired eyes that she had grown to know so well. There was no fear in them, no anger, just quiet acceptance. "You could have mentioned you were a queen," he said. "Would you have treated me differently?" He thought about it for a moment. "Probably would have made fancier soup." Yuna laughed. She actually laughed out loud, right there in front of her soldiers. Taiwu and the guards stared at her. They had never heard their queen laugh before. Not once in 80 years of service. "Your Majesty," Taiwu said, confusion in his voice. "We must leave immediately. The Empire is in crisis." "What kind of crisis?" "Your cousin Sung-ho. He claimed you were dead. He has declared himself emperor. Half the fleet follows him now. Civil war has begun." Yuna felt the weight of her old life crashing back onto her shoulders. Sung-ho. She had always known he wanted her throne. She had always known he would try something eventually. "How bad is it?" she asked. 3 systems have already fallen. Millions are dead. If you do not return soon, the entire empire may collapse. Yuna closed her eyes. This was her duty, her responsibility. She could not ignore it. She could not stay here while her people died. But leaving meant giving up everything she had found. This cabin, this forest, this human who treated her like a person instead of a crown. She turned to Do-hyun. "I have to go. I know. My people need me. They do." She waited for him to say something more. To ask her to stay. To tell her that he needed her too. But he just stood there with his fishing rod, calm and accepting as always. "You are not going to ask me to stay?" she said. "Would it change anything?" "No, but I wish you would ask anyway." Do-hyun set down his fishing rod. He walked toward her, ignoring the soldiers who raised their weapons. He stopped right in front of her, closer than any being had stood to her in 200 years. "I am not going to ask you to abandon your people," he said softly. "That is not who you are. You help others. You take care of others. It is what makes you a good queen, I think. Even if I did not know you were one, I do not want to go. I know." He reached out and took her hand. The soldiers tensed. Taiwu made a strangled sound. But Yuna did not pull away. People need you, Doyin said. That matters. Go save your empire. Do what you have to do. He smiled, just a little. The fish will still be here when you get back. Yuna held his hand for a long moment. She memorized the feel of it. The warmth. The roughness. She knew she might never feel it again. Thank you, she said. For everything. You are welcome. Your Majesty. He said the title gently, almost like a joke. Like it did not change anything between them. Yuna let go of his hand. She straightened her back. She lifted her chin. She became the queen again. Commander Taiwu, she said, her voice cold and commanding. This human and this planet are under my protection. Anyone who threatens either will answer to me personally. Is that understood? Taiwu bowed. Understood, Your Majesty. Yuna walked toward the ship. At the ramp, she turned back one last time. Do-hyun stood on his porch, watching her go. He raised his hand in a small wave. She did not wave back. Queens did not wave. But she looked at him for as long as she could, before the doors closed and the ship rose into the sky. The war was waiting. Her empire was burning. And Yuna had never felt more alone in her entire life. The Civil War lasted 3 months. Sung-ho had expected an easy victory. He thought Queen Yuna was dead or broken. He thought the empire would accept him without a fight. He was wrong. Yuna returned with fire in her eyes and strange new ideas in her head. She did not fight the way she used to. She did not crush her enemies with overwhelming force. She did not execute every rebel she captured. Instead, she talked dot. She sent messages to the rebel fleets, asking why they followed Sung-ho. She discovered that many of them were not traitors. They were desperate. They were tired of endless wars. They were sick of an empire that treated common people like tools to be used and thrown away. Yuna listened. Really listened. For the first time in her long rule, she heard what her people were actually saying. And then she changed. She offered amnesty to every rebel who surrendered. Not death. Not punishment. Just forgiveness. Thousands of soldiers put down their weapons and came back to her side. Sung-ho's fleet shrank by half in a single week. Her council called her insane. They said she was being dangerously soft. They said she was acting too human. Yuna smiled at that. She took it as a compliment. In the final battle, Sung-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by his last loyal followers. Yuna's fleet closed in from all sides. Victory was certain. All she had to do was give the order, and his ship would be turned to dust. But she remembered a man sitting by a fire, talking about choosing peace over revenge. Open a channel, Yuna said. Sung-ho's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and scared, though he tried to hide it behind anger. Come to watch me die, cousin? He snarled. I came to offer you a choice, Yuna said. Surrender now, and you will live. You will be exiled to a quiet planet where you can spend your remaining years in peace. No prison, no execution. Just life. Her council protested loudly. Traitors should die. That was the law. That was tradition. Yuna ignored them. Why? Sung-ho asked, confusion replacing anger. Why would you spare me? Because killing you changes nothing. It does not bring back the dead. It does not heal the wounds. It only creates more pain, more anger, more war. She leaned forward. I am tired of war, Sung-ho. Are you not tired too? For a long moment, Sung-ho stared at her through the screen. Then something broke in his eyes. The fight drained out of him. I surrender, he said quietly. The Civil War ended without another shot fired. In the months that followed, Yuna began reforms that shocked the entire galaxy. She created councils where common people could speak their concerns. She reduced the power of noble families. She declared that the empire would no longer conquer new worlds, but would seek peaceful trade instead. Her advisors warned that she was destroying everything their ancestors built. She told them maybe it was time to build something better. Then came the day that changed everything. Yuna announced that the Valorian Empire would make first contact with a species called humans. Not through war, not through threats. Through diplomacy. It was the first peaceful contact in the Empire's long history. The human leaders were surprised but pleased. They sent ambassadors. They opened trade routes. They shared ideas about government and equality and freedom. And once the formal ceremonies were complete, Queen Yuna made a private request. She wanted to visit a small blue planet in the outer spiral arm. A planet with no name. A planet that now held official protection as property of the crown. Her ship descended through the clouds. It landed in a familiar clearing, in a familiar forest, near a familiar cabin. Yuna walked alone through the trees. Her guards stayed behind. Her advisors stayed behind. She wore full royal regalia, silver and white, with a crown of crystal on her head. But when she reached the cabin, she stopped and just stood there, suddenly nervous. What if he had left? What if he did not want to see her? What if everything had changed? Then the door opened, and Do-yoon stepped out. He was older now. Gray touched his hair. Lines marked his face. But his eyes were the same. Calm. Kind. Completely unimpressed by her crown and her power. "Took you long enough," he said. "The tomatoes are ready." Yuna felt tears building behind her eyes. She blinked them away. "I came back. I noticed. Nice crown. It is heavy, I bet." They stood looking at each other across the small distance between them. A queen and a human. Two lonely souls who had found something neither expected. Yuna reached up and removed her crown. She set it on the porch railing, next to a pot of growing herbs. "Show me the garden," she said. They walked together to the vegetable beds. Do-hyun pointed out the tomatoes, the beans, the peppers he had grown in her absence. Yuna knelt in the dirt, in her royal robes, and touched the leaves with gentle fingers. "I made peace," she said. "I ended the war without destroying my cousin. I am changing the empire. Making it better, I heard." Do-hyun knelt beside her. "The galaxy is talking about their strange queen who acts too human. They make it sound like an insult. It is not. No, it is not. They worked in the garden until the sun began to set." Yuna's white robes were stained with dirt. Her silver skin was dusty. She had never looked less like a queen. She had never felt more like herself. "I cannot stay forever," she said as they watched the sunset. "I still have an empire to run. I know. But I will come back. As often as I can. If that is okay." Do-hyun smiled. It was the same smile he had given her that first night, when she stumbled to his door covered in blood, and he offered her soup. "The door is always open," he said. "Your Majesty." She punched his arm lightly. "Just Yuna. Here, I am just Yuna. Just Yuna then." They sat together as stars appeared in the sky. Somewhere up there, fleets waited for their queen. Advisors prepared reports. Ambassadors negotiated treaties. But here, on this small blue planet, in a garden beside a wooden cabin, the most powerful being in the galaxy was finally at peace. And that was worth more than all the stars in her empire.